Fewer and fewer children are being born in Mexico, schools are going bankrupt, and Mexicans are in danger of extinction. Look at this, fewer babies than in Japan. Mexico is entering a state of demographic collapse. This is very serious, very, very serious. A lot of people don't realize how extremely serious this is for the economy and for people's lives. To give you an idea, forget about your retirement. You're not going to retire ever. And it's also highly likely that things will keep getting even more expensive. And on top of that, the foreign debt is going to grow much more than people imagine. It's serious. But anyway, I want to show you the following chart because just look at this. The birth rate in Mexico right now is already lower than in the United States. Just as you heard, right now fewer children are being born per woman in Mexico than in the United States. This is very, very serious. And just look at this. I mean, we're already talking about a birth rate of probably 1.3 children per woman, really 1.4, which is brutal. Of course, this means that Mexico is dying out. And keep in mind, this isn't a problem exclusive to Mexico. This is a global crisis. To give you an example, just look at this, Argentina. Argentina has a birth rate of 1.3 children per woman. This is very serious because you need at least 2.1 children per woman to maintain the population to sustain it. This isn't being achieved. I know some will argue it's good that children aren't being born since not everyone should be a parent. I'm aware of those arguments. I know, but honestly, there's nothing good about this. It's quite the opposite. This is going to make the country's economy worse. It's going to make the current economic situation even worse. And the thing is, the whole system we know was built on the premise that more children would be born. Yes, the current economic system was built with our grandparents' era in mind, right? You know that many grandparents had 6 children, 8 children, 4 children. That was the birth rate back then. So, a social democratic system was created, where there was some redistribution and social support programs. Like pensions, meaning retirement, like healthcare, meaning hospitals, and many more social benefits that the government has provided over the years. All of that managed to be sustained. Under the premise that many more children would be born, and those children would obviously grow up and start working. And now, with their taxes, they would fund the pensions of the elderly and also pay for the hospitals of people who were sick. All of that could be sustained that way, but what would happen if suddenly everyone became elderly? If we lived in a world of old people, what would happen if suddenly everyone was old? They use hospitals, they need to go to the hospital for constant checkups. What do you think would happen? Well, all those systems are going to break down, they're going to collapse. Even something like private health insurance could end up collapsing. Think about it. Private health insurance stays afloat and is sustained thanks to the people who pay for it, but don't use it regularly. Of course, that's why it stays afloat. But what will happen when we're all old and have to go to the hospital often? Oh, then we'll have a huge problem. I think a lot of people aren't aware of how serious this situation is. Sadly, many countries have experienced it. And of course, it's a situation that's very concerning, especially because, let me remind you, Mexico, Argentina, Costa Rica, which is also in a critical situation, Chile, Spain. Spain is not a country that's in such a positive economic situation. Chile is a little better, of course, but it's not like it's a super highly developed country either. And this is going to prevent them from fully developing. They probably won't do so until this situation is resolved. When will it be resolved? How long will it take? I don't know, but I want to show you the following. Please pay attention.
Fewer and fewer children are being born in Mexico, and now schools are starting to feel the effects. Educational authorities and specialists have warned that the decline in births in the country is already causing a drop in school enrollment, mainly at the preschool and elementary levels.
Look, I know a lot of people are going to say, no, that's not true, there are plenty. For example, in Mexico, people say that many teenagers at CONALEP get pregnant. That's something you hear a lot. Sure, there may still be some teenagers who are getting pregnant, but this is becoming less and less common, less and less frequent. And actually, now the exact opposite is starting to happen. Now we're seeing how, well, girls, or rather women, are 30, 31, even 35 years old. And they don't have children, they don't have a stable relationship, and there's nothing And this is especially concerning in the case of women, because men, after all, can have children at any stage of their lives. But let's remember that women have a biological clock, and many are reaching 30, 31, 32 years old without children, without a stable partner. This becomes concerning because it's not just one. If it were just one girl saying she wants to wait and keep living her life, it wouldn't be as worrying. Experiences, look, it's a personal decision and I think it's valid. The problem is that they're all doing it. The problem is that this is happening to the entire population at the same time, and that's when it starts to become concerning.
Between 2019 and 2024, Mexico recorded a significant drop in the number of births, a trend related to economic factors, social changes, and the decision of many families to delay or limit childbearing.
I know that people mostly talk about economic factors, and yes, I understand that the current economic situation is critical. It must be said, sadly, many people can't become independent. There's a statistic that says 70% of young people under 34 haven't managed to move out of their parents' house. 70%, just so you're aware of that. When we're talking about such a large number, it obviously means that something is wrong, that something is broken in the system. And obviously this really ends up hurting and making it so that many people can't have children. But the economic factor isn't the only one, since this drop in birth rates first happened in countries with favorable economic situations. So the economic factor isn't the only thing. I think there are many more factors, a lot of them. One, for example, could very well be feminism and the division that has happened in recent years between men and women who are becoming more and more divided. Another problem could also be social media like Instagram. We all know that, for example, women always want to go out with the best man within their reach. Women have something known as hypergamy, which means they want to go out with the best man possible, which I think is valid. It's something respectable. We all want to go out with the best person. Who wouldn't? Now there's a problem. Social networks like Instagram have created an imbalance, a total imbalance. They have created false expectations in women about what their partner should be, what a relationship should be, what a perfect man should be, for example. And of course, this has caused a lot of problems that I think we're not even aware of yet. I don't think we fully realize it yet. We'll realize this as years pass. I've warned about this situation in Mexico for a while, and it's coming true. Let's continue.
Motherhood. The impact is already starting to be seen in different parts of the country, where some schools are reporting fewer students enrolled compared to previous years. Specialists point out that this demographic change could force a rethink of the distribution of resources, teachers, and educational facilities in the coming years. Some communities could even face the closure or merging of schools due to low student demand. The phenomenon also reflects how the conditions and priorities of new generations in Mexico have changed. What do you think? Let's see.
Of course, there are also many people who prioritize their social, economic, and financial development. There are people who prioritize traveling, for example. That's valid. The problem is everyone is doing it at once. I'm telling you, that's the biggest problem. Now, I want to show you this.
There are 419,000 fewer babies in Mexico than there were 5 years ago, and that has already closed 2,229 businesses. What kind of businesses? Preschools. You didn't see that one coming. Here you go. Births dropped by 20% just between 2019 and 2024, from 2 million babies a year to 1.6 million. 400,000 fewer children who just weren't going to make it to preschool.
Wait, I just remembered something. There are a lot of people who say, and with good reason, that they don't want to have children because that way they can maintain their quality of life. They say, look, being alone, I live well, I'm doing okay, I can support myself, I can have my little apartment, I can have my own space. So if I have a child, I'll lose that quality of life. But there's a problem. Not having children is going to cause such a big crisis that it will make it harder and harder to support yourself. I'm telling you. Unfortunately, the social democratic system, the Keynesian system we live under, is a Ponzi scheme. It depends on the number of children being born. So think about it like a multi-level marketing scheme that needs more people to join in order to keep going, to be able to sustain itself. Well, exactly the same thing is happening right now.
But there's something strange. Milenio, the media outlet, noticed that private preschools lost almost twice as many students as public ones. Private schools lost 24%, but public schools lost about 14% of their enrollment. Same number of kids lost, but two very different consequences. And the reason is that there's a double blow. On one hand, yeah, you have what I'm telling you, fewer kids. And on the other hand, tuition fees went up by 5% just in 2025 compared to an inflation rate of 3.5%. That means the families who still have kids can't afford private schools anymore and are moving to public schools. And where it hurts the most is that almost half of the closures are in Mexico City and the state of Mexico. The capital lost 41% of its private school enrollment and closed 551 schools.
551 schools closed in Mexico City. It's crazy.
The state of Mexico closed another 514 preschools, and that tells you something. The demographic bomb that almost no one talks about is here. It's not a scenario. It's not a projection. They've already closed 2,229 small businesses, and guess what? Like almost everywhere else, Mexico keeps having fewer children with each generation.
That's very true. I'm telling you. I'm personally 30, almost 31 years old. I can tell you that the vast majority of my classmates I grew up with, the overwhelming majority, don't have children. Not only that, they don't have a serious relationship. In fact, even worse, the vast majority probably still live with their parents. We're talking about people who are 30, 31, maybe 32 years old. And I think that says it all. Of course, the situation is really messed up. The situation is terrible. And look, about the topic of having kids, I know that the vast majority of my former male classmates probably plan to have children in the future. I know that. Maybe they're trying to grow, to develop themselves, to improve financially so they can be ready to start a family. I'm not so worried about them. I'm more concerned about the women. What can I say? They're women, maybe not so young anymore, 32 years old. They don't have children, and they're not in a serious relationship, they're not in a stable relationship, and they have a biological clock. And I don't know what's going to happen. I think the birth rate situation in Mexico is getting worse. I'm telling you, I think it's getting worse. This isn't getting better, it's getting worse. And the numbers are dropping drastically. Just look at this. Mexico has always had a higher birth rate than the United States. Always. I mean, just look at that. The average Mexican had more children than the Greeks. This is over. After the pandemic, the birth rate in Mexico collapsed so dramatically that we're already way below the United States. In fact, the United States has stayed about the same. You see, it's had a drop, but it's been gradual. I mean, not as serious as Mexico's. Mexico's situation has been a total collapse. Look at this. So I think the situation that's coming in the next few years will be more serious than you imagine. There won't be any government, neither left nor right, that can save this. That can save us from the coming crisis. But anyway, I'd like to know what you think and what your opinions are about all this. I'm telling you, the situation is critical in much of the world. Argentina, Chile, Costa Rica, Spain. Japan, let's see, interestingly, Japan has a better birth rate than Spain, than Chile, than many countries. In fact, Japan has almost the same birth rate as Mexico. South Korea is really struggling with birth rates. But here's the thing. This year, South Korea is not the country with the lowest birth rate in the world anymore. Now it's Thailand. Just imagine that. Incredible, really? The situation is very worrying. I'd like to know what you think, guys. Thank you very much and see you next time.